are some common mistakes that we see Salesforce admins doing with flows? Manuel?
Yeah, and I think that it is very clear that there are new considerations that you need to have because of having a more complex and more powerful tool right now. That means that you need to consider things that in the workflows and process filters are you don't need to consider because they are not they are more restricted. So these things are seldom to happen. Okay, so let's start by considering the governor limits and the performance in general. Okay, the idea is that now, as you have more capabilities of defining the different processes, it is more important than before that you need to consider how you're processing all the data. What I mean is you need to try to avoid to not to put I would say queries or DMLs inside a loop, for example, because otherwise you're going to reach the governor limits. This is one key feature from Salesforce in which you have limits because you are sharing the same servers with other users. So it's important that you keep always an eye on what resources you're using. So that's one thing. Another thing that you need to consider is that you need to avoid hard coding, of course, because that's another very common practice. And in these processes, it is better than you retrieve the information for each of your orgs, so you can avoid having something that is linked to one specific org, and when you're moving to another one, it's not going to work. You have also it is a best practice to avoid having the updates and creations or deletions inside your database split it all around the flow, because as it is very as it can be way bigger, you need to consider that because it's going to be very difficult for spotting the issues and the problems. So you need to avoid that and try to make all your updates and changes in the database at the end of the flow. So that's another mistake that is very common, because after that you need to track what is happening in the other different parts of the flow. And finally, there are some considerations that you need to have when you're making updates, that there are some objects in Salesforce that cannot be updated at the same time, because Salesforce considers that everything that you're executing in a flow, it is just one transaction. So, for example, you cannot update an account and a user role at the same time. Okay.